Hey everybody, Matthew here from MiniWarGaming.com, and in this video I want to go over 8 big changes to Wizards and Priests in Age of Sigmar 3rd edition.
We play and call it work.
And don't forget, we're going to have another battle report for our MiniWarGaming Vault members at the link below. This will be an Age of Sigmar 3rd edition battle report, naturally. And we'll make sure that this one uses at least some endless spells and magmic invocations to show off some of the new changes that you see in 3rd edition that I'm going to be talking about today. That'll be at the link in the description below. If you're not a Vault member, you can still click it and get a free 7-day trial to the MiniWarGaming Vault and check out the thousands of other videos and discounts and all the other stuff that we have in there. We hope, of course, that you'll stick around and help support us. Change number 1, Priests got nerfed. Now, there's a bit of a qualification here. They've been brought more in line with what Wizards do. For example, before, they could do the prayer built into their War Scroll, and then they could probably do a prayer from their Allegiance ability, and if they had purchased one, they could do an invocation as well. Now, they can only do one of those. Now, before you go crying and say, now my priests are totally useless, even though they did get nerfed, there are some buffs to them as well. They did get access to 2 new prayers, universal prayers, Bless and Smite. Bless allows you to give a unit nearby a 6-up ward save, which is a new type of word for ignoring wounds on a 6-up. And Smite allows you to go after another priest on the other side of the table and say, my god is better than your god. Those aren't that great, but what does really help them is number 2, priests can dispel under spells and banish invocations. So they've now gained the ability, just like a wizard, to be able to dispel endless spells. And we're going to be talking about that later, about why that's such a big deal. But now you can also banish invocations. They do this very similarly to how you dispel an endless spell. So they'll roll a single die, just like a prayer roll, and if they roll higher than what was required to get that prayer, then they will banish it and it gets removed, just like how you can dispel endless spells. This does cost them their ability to chant a prayer, though, if it is your own hero phase. Number 3, MISCAST and Divine Wrath. Now you gotta think twice about throwing a spell that maybe you don't really care about, because if you roll a double 1 as a caster, as a wizard, then you are going to miscast, which does 2 things. First off, you take D3 mortal wounds, and second, you're not allowed to cast any more spells that turn. Not a big deal for a wizard who can only cast 1 spell, but if you could cast more, that double 1 is gonna suck. For priests, when they're rolling their prayer roll, if they roll a 1, their god is not very happy with them, and they take a mortal wound. Number 4, endless spells move more, like 100% more. Before, they would move at the beginning of each battle round, and they were moved starting with the player who was going second. Now they move at the end of every hero phase, and there's even some changes to how they move, but we'll get into that in just a second. That means they move twice as much as they used to, making them a lot more useful when you want to bring them. Number 5, controlling endless spells. Certain armies like the Seraphim or Bone Reapers, and then certain other endless spells as well, had built-in ways that only wizards from their own allegiance could really control them. Well, now you don't need that, because if a wizard casts an endless spell, and is within 30 inches of it when it goes to move, then they control that endless spell, as long as there's only 1. If they cast a second one, then they have to pick just 1, and the other one will be wild, in which case either player might be moving it based on whose turn it is. So as long as a wizard continues to keep concentration on that spell, they can move it. It doesn't stop them from casting other spells either. It just means as long as they're within 30 inches of the endless spell that they cast. Number 6, moving through endless spells and invocations. Have you ever thought that the most powerful thing an endless spell or invocation could do was simply block your opponent into certain areas? Well, that's no longer the case. Now models can move through endless spells and invocations as if they were not there, as long as they don't end on top of the model. Now I'm expecting an FAQ, maybe I already have coming out by the time I put this video up, which updates some of the War Scrolls like, I don't know, the Runic Firewall or the Prismatic Palisade, which are actually walls, to say that models can't pass through them, and maybe others will be able to do the same thing. But right now, as I'm making this video, you can pass through any of the endless spells and invocations as if they were not there. Number 7, dispelling endless spells. Now, how you dispel endless spells hasn't changed, although we now know that priests can do it too. But now you can dispel endless spells in your enemy's hero phase as well. So when it's your hero phase, you get the first chance to dispel endless spells. Once you're done attempting to dispel endless spells, which hasn't changed from second to third, your opponent can then attempt to dispel endless spells as well. So if you just got a double turn and you're thinking you're going to be able to put that endless spell into your opponent's face, well, they do get a chance to get rid of it before you get a chance to do that. Number 8, wizards and priests can learn more spells and prayers. Now, the basic way that you choose spells and prayers for your wizards and priests hasn't changed too much, and that is that in addition to whatever spells they know on their war scroll, they usually get to learn one additional one from their battle tome as well. Well, we have a couple things in there that have changed that. First off, there are now generic prayers and spells that anybody can learn from any of the battle tomes. So if you have a priest who doesn't know any prayers, well, now there are several prayers that you might be able to chant. Second off, when you take certain core battalions, which we're going to talk about in another video, you are allowed to bring extra enhancements for your armies. Think of it like before when you brought a War Scroll battalion, you could bring an extra artifact or extra mount traits for every single one that you brought. Well, now with certain core battalions, you can give an enhancement to your army, which could be an extra artifact, but could also be an extra spell for every single one of your wizards, or an extra prayer for every single one of your priests. So let's say that you play Gloomspite Gitz, and you really like the Great Green Hand of Gork, which lets you teleport units around the table, but you never know who's going to need it. Well, if you take the one core battalion that lets you take a second enhancement, then you can take the spell enhancement, which allows all your wizards to learn a new spell, and you can give them all that spell. So they know a spell that will be useful, plus this one, so that no matter where you are, one of your wizards can attempt to use it. I'm sure there's other uses that you could figure out for this as well, but that's the first one that came to my mind. So that is the 8 big changes that we could see to wizards and priests from 2nd to 3rd edition Age of Sigmar. Which ones do you think are going to be the biggest impact in your games? Did I miss any? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget, we've got a battle report for you wonderful Vault members out there. That is at the link in the description below. And if you're not a Vault member, please check it out. You can click the link and get a free 7-day trial. No obligations. You can cancel whenever you like. You don't have to pay for it. But we hope, of course, that you will stick around and help support us, because Vault members are, of course, what allow us to do all of this awesome stuff. The studios, the terrain, the miniatures, employees, the lights, everything brought to you by MiniWarGaming Vault members. Stay tuned for more Age of Sigmar 3rd edition coverage. Happy wargaming.